Pain management is critical. In the heat of combat and in times of crisis, it's vital to have the right medical professionals nearby. From the battlefields of the American Civil War to the field hospitals of World War I to the forward-facing surgical teams of Afghanistan, CRNAs have proudly served alongside and cared for America's military men and women. CRNAs provide anesthesia care in all branches of the military, wherever U.S. service men and women are stationed around the globe. Often they are the sole anesthesia professionals on the front lines. As part of forward-facing surgical teams, surrounded by the chaos of war, CRNAs collaborate with surgeons, other physicians, nurses, medics, and surgical techs to deliver high-quality combat casualty care. In the field, military CRNAs can be stationed with troops on the ground, on Navy ships, or as part of aircraft evacuation teams around the world. From the Army and Navy to the Air Force and Marines, the U.S. Armed Forces recognize the full scope of CRNA practice, ensuring military personnel have access to safe anesthesia care. CRNAs also play an integral role in caring for our nation's veterans, serving in Veterans Health Administration facilities across the country. Whether overseas or right here at home, highly educated and skilled CRNAs provide the highest quality care to service men and women, both past and present. To learn more about anesthesia care and certified registered nurse anesthetists, visit our website, crnasafe.com.
So that actually wasn't done by one of us. That was done by one of the CRNA associations. So even the civilian side does recognize the roles that CRNAs play, especially in the Army, well, any military branch. The one thing I did want to hit on when it comes to CRNAs, and you did briefly mention it, was there's no anesthesiologists out in forward surgical teams. They're not there. So we bring them on as independent practitioners. It's the same way when you're talking about like the NPs, also PAs, stuff like that. So we really do empower our CRNAs and all of our medical professionals to actually take a proactive role in treating people, not just pass it off to the doc, let them handle it. So for this about next hour or so, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over both SAGPAN, the graduate program in anesthesia nursing, and I also want to talk about CRNA strap and kind of the differences between the two, the qualifications for each of them, and then also if you're an experienced CRNA, what to do on that side.
You know, that video makes me laugh because
I know it's a cringy video.
It's a good video, but just so people know, like, you're not going to be the bearded guy with the rifle.
No.
You know, no, that's who you're taking care of, not the CRNA in the military.
No, and so people ask me a lot of times when they sit down, they're like, "Oh, what am I going to be doing when I deploy?" I'm sorry,
it's CRNA.
Yeah, you're going to be a CRNA. If you're the dude with the rifle, there's something went wrong. I didn't do my job. Like everybody else around them didn't do theirs. So we are bringing you on board for a very, very, very specific thing to do. Be a CRNA. If you're coming on board to be an ER doctor, you're going to be an ER doctor. We're not going to be like, hey, jump on this truck. I need you to drive somewhere. No. Like the last person I want driving is one of the docs. You may hop on a truck to drive to get to your final location, but they're not going to, like, that's not your job. You're not going to be a truck driver. You're not going to be out there kicking in doors with the infantry guys. They do those jobs knowing that I'm out there with them as a medic and I'm going to bring them to someone like you to take care of them. So they're going to do that knowing that they have the full support of the medical system behind them. And that's why when we bring you on to do a certain thing, we want you to be the absolute best at that one specific thing.
I will caveat too. There is one very, very, very niche place for CRNAs. It's called the SORT team, which is a Special Operations Resuscitative Team. So if you're an active duty CRNA and you want to be out there driving like razors and being right behind the front lines with these special forces guys, patching
doing
them up,
cool guy stuff.
Doing cool guy stuff. There is one possibility for that, and that's it. But
Yeah.
Just a weird caveat. I mean, that's so.
It doesn't.
What most people are looking for, but it is out there.
And if you want to go, if like you want to go jump out of airplanes, go to airborne school, go to air assault school. Like I've had a PA go to Ranger school. You can do that. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. So you volunteer for things like this. So if you're one of those adrenaline junkies and that's what you want to do, and turns out you're an ER nurse, like you can do that. Come on board. That's fine.
I have a ton of nursing friends that have done air assault, meaning like rappelling out of helicopters, and airborne jumping out of airplanes. I've never done those things. I'm not super in that, to be honest with you. But I mean, yeah, if you want to do those things, those opportunities are out there.
All right, I am trying to find the next slide. It is. Oh, and you actually linked them together. So you sag pant and strap.
Yes, I did.
All right, let me just make sure. I really need to actually install like Adobe on here. Just
it works.
all right.
You know, I left earlier because Harry Harper said, "So true with packing the trash can."
Oh yeah. So this comment.
Anybody tuning in now is like, "What are you talking about?" But
yeah, I mean, when I moved from where was it? No, so a little bit of backstory about me before we go into this. Like I said, I was in Germany. I actually met my wife in Germany. She was in the Air Force. And if you get married and you're both in the Army, you have what's called the Married Army Couples Program. So what they'll do is they'll do everything in their power to get you to the same location or adjacent location. So they mean like DC complex. There's a ton of places people can be, but at least so you can live together. So they do make a concerted effort to do that. If you're dual service, it's a little bit tougher, especially on the enlisted side, because I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. The only position for Air Force at Fort Riley was part of special operations for the Air Force, which females weren't allowed in at the time, and my wife had no interest in doing it. So she was stationed at Offutt, Nebraska. So it was about 2.5 hours away. She ended up taking like an early separation and moved down to Fort Riley. Well, when they moved her stuff out of her apartment, it's the same thing. Even if you leave the military, they ask you like, hey, step aside, we'll come in, we'll pack all your stuff, we'll put it on the truck and deliver it. And what you can even do after you unpack is call them back and they'll take all the boxes and trash away. So the only thing you need to do is unpack. But there was part of that, which was she had a trash can with cleaning products that was set off to the side for when they packed everything out to pretty much leave there. And she would just drive down because, I mean, it's 2.5 hours away. And she would just clean up and drive down with it. Well, they packed up all of her cleaning products, which had some trash in the bottom too, but like they opened it up and they literally took the entire trash can, wrapped it in paper, shoved paper inside of it, and packed it in a custom box. And we get this thing like, what's this weird? It's trash can shape, but then you had like broom handles sticking out one end and a duster on it, and they custom formed a box around it. And it took time to do it. It's like, even though there was, and as soon as we unwrapped it, there was a sticky note right on the front that says "Do not pack." So that's why I say if you don't want anything back, like lock it in a separate room. And it's kind of a running joke with the military. It's like they will pack the trash can. Like if you don't put it away, they will pack it. Sorry, I had to go into that because it is amusing for a lot of people. All right. And kind of before we roll into this one, we went into a little bit about your background. And what I can do is I'll go into a little bit about mine too. I came in about 2008, so I've been a little bit longer than you, sir. Not by much. And when I came in, I said, I want to be a combat medic. Like, well, we don't have that job anymore. We have healthcare specialists. It's like, what do they do? Combat medic stuff. Okay, cool. Go through the school. I was a prior EMT, so did all that. And then when I came in, going through my training, they're like, you're a male, you're going to go be a combat medic in an infantry unit somewhere. Like, it was during the height of the surge and all that was going on in Iraq. So for about 6 months, that's all I was told. You're going to be a combat medic, you're going to be a combat medic. Well, when my orders came, it's like, congratulations, you're going to Wiesbaden Health Clinic in Wiesbaden, Germany. I show up there and I was doing LPN stuff. So I was working a front desk, I was taking the S and the O and vitals, basic stuff. And then there were a few other people that were in that clinic with me. One of them decided, like, nope, this is not what he wanted to do. And he's now doing the cool guy stuff with special operations. So he's actually a special operations combat medic. And that's part of, he would be linked up to one of the teams, like you said, sir. After that, went to Fort Riley, deployed to Afghanistan, came back, went to Hawaii. So, I mean, you can ask me what Kansas was like. It's like, I wasn't there long enough to experience it. Like, I was there to get out the door, and I was there to come back and move. So that was my experience. All I know is it's hot and windy, and in the winter it's cold and windy. And it's the only place I've ever experienced wind coming from bricks. Like, it's about -2. You have a 30-mile-an-hour wind standing on the side of a building, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go around the building to block the wind. No, there's wind coming from the bricks. Like, magic, I guess. Went to Hawaii.
And you got to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, went to Hawaii. Our unit was so busy, I spent very little time at home. But that was, I was in aviation, so we were going back and forth to the Big Island. We were getting people ready for deployment. We were doing all sorts of stuff. Then I came back to Fort Knox in Kentucky, and I was actually what they call the NCOIC, so non-commissioned officer in charge. We do the day-to-day operations of a health clinic. So we manage the schedules, we manage the manning when it comes to a lot of the nurses, the techs, flexing here and there. If there's any special taskers, we help out with that and figure out what we can work with as a bare minimum. A lot of the coding, a lot of the templates, stuff like that. And then I got news that my clinic was shutting down. And so they're like, hey, if you don't go find a job, like, if you don't find a position, the Army will find one for you. Well, I knew a few AMED recruiters, and it's like, hey, how do I do that? So I volunteered for it, and here I am. But in that time frame, I've seen a lot of different aspects of Army medicine. So if you're interested in the family practice side, I've seen that. I've managed those clinics. I can kind of give you an insider view into what your day-to-day life would be like. You show up around 8:30. You're typically gone by about 4:30. You mainly work three full shifts, and then the others are split up with admin time. That's a normal day-to-day job for a family practice doc in an installation hospital. You can get deployed with another unit as our PROFIS system works. But same thing with the PAs. I have a lot of experience working hand in hand with PAs because the PAs are the primary trainers of the medics. And I've had PAs say, hey, my background is in physical therapy. Like, would I be allowed to incorporate this into my practice? And it's like, absolutely. You do what you see fit. And the same thing also comes from the nursing side where, like I said, we had that brand new nurse. And it's like, hey, you're now the chief nursing officer for an entire clinic. So you manage all of the civilian support staff and everything like that. So we do try and push people. If they want to progress and they want to get better, we will push you to do that. And same thing with taking over hospitals, taking over command like that. It's broadening assignments. The piece that I didn't really have experience with, because I'm not in the OR field, I'm not in that. The only CRNAs I've ever met were when deployed, passing people off. And like I said, there's no anesthesiologist. They are there as the sole anesthesia provider in these positions. So what we're going to go into a little bit right now is we're going to talk about there's three pathways, two distinct pathways that we're going to go into. One we already talked about, which was through HPSP. So one of these is through the active duty side, and one of them is through the reserve side. And when you're talking about USAGPAN and the active duty side, I've already spoken with a student who's currently at the USAGPAN program. His name's Lieutenant Lim. And if you actually jump over to our YouTube channel, I have his stuff posted there. It's also on our podcast. And I've even spoken with him, and he's going to try and keep his YouTube channel going while he's in school. It might be a little difficult, but I even said, like, hey,
good luck to you, sir. Good luck to you.
Yeah. But I even said, it's like, hey, like, I'll probably just be pinging him every once in a while and be like, hey, how's it going down there? Would you mind jumping on for 30 minutes and just like talking about how it's been going, and if there's any tips and tricks that you've figured out while you're going through this program. But all right, here we go. Let me clean this up a little bit.
It's my funky, fresh backgrounds. I mixed it up.
All right, there we go. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go, USAGPAN. Yay, acronyms. All right, again, before we get going, if you have questions, go ahead and leave us a comment, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube. I do have this going to Twitch as well. Leave us a comment here. We'll try and answer it. You can also shoot me a text. I do have my phone sitting right here, so in case I do have some stuff come through. If you want more information and you want to talk to one of the recruiters in your area, you can go ahead and text AGDQ to the number below. It actually spells Go Army, but because we don't have phones like that anymore, this is easier. And same thing, if you want to take a look at the link tree, I'm going to have links to everything we talk about. And if I'm missing some, again, leave me a comment and I'll throw it up there. That link tree account is going to be active, and I'm constantly going to be updating it. So if there's any new information, you can do that. Go ahead and like us on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Akron Army Med on both channels. And with Captain Dulworth, what are your social media accounts?
My YouTube channel, it's kind of a personal, kind of businessy, whatever channel, but it's That Army Nurse. And I do breakdowns of some Army programs. Again, they're not funny or entertaining at all because I'm just a dry kind of person, I guess, but they're very informative. And if you would like to see something talked about, you can comment in there and I'll happily make a video about it, even if it's just one person, that's fine. Our Facebook is Lansing Army Med, and then our Instagram is Michigan Army Healthcare.
All right, so I've actually put it in the bottom. If you go to the link tree on the bottom, it'll actually link you to all those other sources as well. And again, like us, share this stream right now. That way we can get more interaction and stuff like that. We're going to be doing 2 more days of this, so it is a true live stream marathon through all 3 national hiring days. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. All right, sir, over to you.
Right on. So I'll kind of explain what the USAGPAN program is here, and that's the U.S. Army Graduate Program in Anesthesia Nursing. So this is primarily how we bring people on board to active duty Army to become CRNAs. So most of our CRNAs come through this program, and that's how we get most of them. Not that you can't join another faster avenue, but this is kind of where we get the most bang for our buck and what we're doing. But it is a 3-year doctoral program. So the first year is at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, which is right down the street from San Antonio Military Medical Center, or BAMC, whatever one you want to call it.
SAMC, BAMC, it's all the same thing.
Sure, yeah, whatever. I don't know the difference. I'm sure there is one. But
if you've been to San Antonio, you know it. You drive down 35, and it's a ginormous brick building off to the right-hand side.
Yeah, so the Fort Sam Houston, Texas is just completely adjacent to that. So that's where you do all your book learning. You're doing about 18 credits a semester, up to 21, and it is super intense. If you look at the topics covered, you'll get a little feeling in your gut like, holy crap, it's going to be really difficult. But people who are applying for CRNA programs know that. They know that these things are really, really difficult. And that's why you can't do them part-time. You can only do them full-time. There is no such thing as a part-time CRNA program. And again, after you complete phase 1 at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, you go to a phase 2 location for 24 months. And of course, this is a doctoral program, like I said, because everybody's switching to the DNP or DNAP. So there's the locations listed. You could be staying there down at San Antonio Military Medical Center right down the street. So some people won't even have to move. You just stay there and you finish your more clinically driven portion of the program. Or you could be going to Hawaii, Georgia, Washington State, or another location in Texas. And like I said, you graduate with a Doctor of Nursing Practice degree. It is affiliated with Baylor University, Louise Harrington School of Nursing. This is the best way I can explain it. I just pretend that USAGPAN is the satellite campus. So we have the same curriculum and we have the same accreditation process, but we have our own instructors, our own military instructors or military retirees that do instruction at our own base. So we are, I just say, a satellite campus. And if you go at U.S. News and World Report, you'll see Baylor and USAGPAN are ranked separately on that list, but both are very high on that list. So it is a very reputable program. It's been around for a long time. And when you're applying to USAGPAN, it is a dual application process. So you apply to Baylor University through the USAGPAN portal, and you also are applying, I put USAREC, which is the U.S. Army Recruiting, which is us, who you're talking to right now, Sergeant Sharps and I. We deal with the Army side. So you apply through Baylor, and then you also have to apply for an Army application so we can make sure you meet all the accession standards and all the things needed to be a member in the military.
And I'm actually going to go ahead and throw the USAGPAN link down in the link tree as well.
Perfect.
So I'm going to jump off here 1 second.
Yep. I didn't put the curriculum on the slide deck, but yeah, please go to that link. You can just search in a search engine, USAGPAN, USAGPAN, or USAGPAN Baylor, and you'll find the link to that because it is a specific location within the Baylor website. So you definitely want to go check that out. And they'll have contact information, the curriculum, how to apply, the timelines. And I'm actually applying for this program, but I'm applying as an active duty nurse, which is a little different than applying as a civilian or a reserve nurse. So just to talk about their application, it's actually very easy. It's very, very easy. You just need a couple letters of rec, send in your transcripts, a few other things, a CV and an essay, but it's super simple. It doesn't take that long. Mine's almost done and I only spent a couple hours on it maybe. I just need to write my essay, but just to plug that in. But yeah, very, very simple, very easy application. The Army application is not that simple, sort of pain in the butt, but we can talk about that again, maybe at the end of the video. So we're kind of separating our two videos and not reiterating what we're saying. But here's the admission criteria for USAGPAN. You do have to have a BSN or MSN with a minimum GPA of a 3.0. You want to be competitive though, as you do in all things, and a 3.0 is reasonably low. So
but
it can be done. It can be done, but I'm not saying it can't be done. But
exactly. So, and that's the same thing. If you head on over, Nurse Anesthesia J-A-E, and he's on YouTube. He got in, I believe he had a 3.1. And if you go to the video where him and I talked about it, he actually said, like, due to the number of people applying, because there was actually a relatively low number of people that even applied. And he still got in with a 3.1, but he was also competitive in other fields.
correct.
And that's the key. Is
Yes.
if you're weak on your GPA, you need to be strong in other sides. So your science, if your science is a 3.8, but you just bomb English class, apply. Like the most they can say is no.
Yeah, if you're on the lower end there, because on a civilian program, you might not have a chance in the world, okay? You need to increase your GRE score, get your CCRN, do other things to show that you are a strong applicant, that maybe you weren't as good a student maybe when you're in school, but now you're an awesome nurse, you're very committed, you work really hard, yada, yada, yada. One of the guys who's applying this year, actually, that I'm putting forward for this program, you know, when he was a younger guy, I mean, he got like a 1 point something GPA at one school and a 2 here because he didn't know what he wanted to do. And that's fine. That's fine. You know, the big thing is your nursing GPA and your hard sciences. And he turned around, he's like a 3.9 student now. So totally possible, absolutely. You do need to have a statistics class. There is no time frame for when that has to be done. You just have to have one somewhere in your education somewhere, okay? This is a newer requirement.
Statistics.
It's not that bad. You do have to have organic chemistry or biochemistry, and it does have to be within 5 years. So I'm actually applying for this program. That was a newer requirement. I had just taken medical biochemistry again, even though I did perfectly fine the first time. But do you have to have that? Get her done. GRE. This is the big sticky point for some people. I've talked to a lot of people this year that were interested, took the GRE, and they did not get the score they needed. So this is not necessarily a SAGPAN requirement. It is an Army requirement for advanced education. So you do have to have the GRE, and you do have to have a competitive score. So you have to have a minimum 3.5 in writing, and then your total score needs to be 300. They have previously admitted people below that. They are not doing that now, because what they found is that when they make exceptions to the standards, that those people are not successful in the program. So they are not going to do that. Not this year anyway. It could change later, I don't know. But at this time, you do have to have a 300 and a 3.5.
And again, that is not a Baylor requirement. So you can reach out to Baylor and they say, yeah, we'll take you with a 290. Well, again, that's not a Baylor requirement. That's an us thing, not a them thing.
Yes. And then you do have to have 12 months of critical care nursing experience.
Is there an hour requirement on that, or is it just 12 calendar?
Full-time for 12 months.
Okay.
So when you do an application, this is more of a recruiter thing. This might not mean a lot to you guys, but we send a packet forward for you as an ICU nurse. And then your incentive or your bonus is school. So we're going to fully qualify you as an ICU nurse. So we'll have a skills validation checklist, an hours worked form, all the things we would normally have for an ICU nurse applicant. And we can talk about that if you're new to the video chat. We have another video on that, or you can just talk to us about it later. But yeah, we have to do all that process and make sure you're fully qualified as an ICU nurse. Then you also have to do a phase 2 shadow and an interview.
All right, so
I've already done this myself personally.
Sir, you're breaking up a little bit, so I'll let your feed catch up. So what he was saying as far as the crit care nurse, he was breaking up, so you might not have caught that. So what we do is we board you and we process you as a crit care nurse in the Army, not as a CRNA. So you're going to have to go through all of those packaging requirements. Like we said before, we'll go through your CV, make sure you've worked full-time as a crit care nurse in an ICU. You're going to have to go get your skills validation checklist signed off by your nursing manager, make sure that you know how to do all your core competencies for CCRN. And then we'll go ahead and process you as that. At the same time, you're also applying through Baylor. All right, looks like you're caught up, sir.
I'm good. Am I clear?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so you also have to do a phase 2 shadow and interview. There are no exceptions to this whatsoever, because according to the COA, every applicant has to be treated exactly the same. Okay, so I did this. So in a normal year, non-COVID year, what the Army would do is, you as a civilian or a reservist, we will pay for you to go down to a phase 2 site. We will pay for your hotel. You will do 2 days of shadowing an SRNA, which is a student in the CRNA program. And then on the third day, you'll do a little shadowing, and then you'll conduct an interview with a panel of military CRNAs. This is very, very important because some people have done the interview and realized that this is not the profession for them. Okay, there are long hours, especially in school. It is very difficult, and there is a lot of responsibility because you will be an independent practitioner in the Army. Okay, so it's very important, but it's all paid. We'll pay for it. If you decide not to do it, no harm, no foul. You don't have to pay that money back. That's fine. In a COVID year, currently, we're having people do shadowing locally within their own hospital, getting a letter of recommendation, and then doing a virtual interview. But hopefully next year we're back to more of a normal thing. I got lucky and I did my interview back in January before all the crazy business happened. If you are really, really interested and you have all the scores and the GPA and everything you need, I will be happy to talk to you about my experience with that and how it went. But you got to put your foot in the door and show that you're committed to. So, and then CCRN, don't have to have it. It's not mandatory, but it is highly recommended. Okay.
Yes.
I've had my CCRN for a while. Both the guys I'm putting forward for this program both have their CCRN. So, if most of the people applying have their CCRN and you all look the same and you don't have yours, that's going to be the first thing that's going to discriminate you from other people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't apply if you don't have it. Please apply. But again, I'm just trying to emphasize that you definitely should do it if you have the knowledge, the time in nursing, and of course the money. It is not cheap to do, but it's a great thing to have, and it's also a point of pride for your profession. But
yeah.
And then I already said phase 2 shadow interview. I don't know why I put that on there twice. It happens to the best of us.
Were you drinking when you were building the slides?
No.
Don't answer that.
No, I was not.
So actually, let me jump back here really quick. When he said CCRN, one thing that Lieutenant Lim and I talked about was he did have a low GPA. He did have his CCRN, and he knocked it out of the park with his phase 2. So those are your 4. So your GPA, your GRE score, your phase 2, and your CCRN. So those are kind of your 4 discriminating factors. But again, if you at least meet the minimum, apply for it. Just go forward, apply for it. All right.
I mean, obviously the interview does play a component there. They want to see that you can critically think, that you have a sound base of pathophysiology, physiology, medication, disease processes, all those good things. Okay. Obviously, if you don't have a firm foundation in those things, if you're not strong, maybe you need to wait a while, maybe apply the next year. Make sure that you're strong clinically and that you really can articulate your knowledge and what's going on. But at any rate,
And
these are just some of the common questions. These actually came from Lieutenant Colonel Curtis's brief, who is
before you jump into that,
yeah, sure.
So let's kind of set up a timeline. I'm not going to throw exact dates in there because I know the timelines, you have it right, that side right there. But people come talk to us, they go ahead and get applied. So they're going to pick up all their stuff. The Army is going to move them to San Antonio. Once they get to San Antonio, they're going to get settled in their apartment because they're going to put them into like basic officer housing. And then what they're going to do is send them through DCC. So DCC is our direct commissioning course. Then they're going to start a little bit of school. Then depending on bullock dates, they might flex them around. So it might be afterwards, it might be before. But so they finish school. I'm getting a text on here, but so they finish school. You now go through your phase 2, you go over to your phase 2. Once you're done, how long do you owe the Army?
You owe the Army 5 years.
Okay. So you're looking at about 3 years of training, correct?
Yes.
So it's
correct.
it's a DNP, DNAP program. Then you owe 5 afterwards. So that's kind of, if you're wondering, that's what you're expected to give back on active duty in a wide variety of positions. Now, if you're going to be moving, with that 5 year, typically you stay on a single location for about how long, sir? Especially on the officer side, it's a little bit different than us.
Usually you'll stay in a location for 3 years. There are exceptions to that, and we'll probably get into this a little later as well. But say you have a family member who has special needs or something like that. Those are considerations. If they need some kind of special medical whatever in a certain location, that is a consideration. They take all of these things into consideration.
High school students, so high school stabilization.
High school stabilization. Yep, absolutely. So if one of your children is very close to finishing high school, you can request that to stay stabilized so that they can finish out where they are. So there's a lot of considerations, but generally speaking, usually you'll do 3 years at each location.
Yeah. So you're most likely, so if you move for 1 year, or you're going to move to San Antonio, 1 year later, you may or may not move, depending on where your phase 2 is at.
Correct.
2 years later, either you're going to move, or there is a possibility you can stay in the same location.
I will say it is unlikely. So when you do finish phase 2, they like to move you just so you're not working where you were a student. They actually call that phase 3, which is nothing you'll ever talk about anywhere, but by mouth, that's what we talk about is phase 3 when you're actually in your initial year as a CRNA. Typically, they'll move you because they don't want that relationship. They want to kind of change it up so you're getting a clean slate as a fully licensed practitioner. But it could happen. It could happen.
So when you come on board, it's going to be about an 8-year program. You're going to move probably 3 times ish. So give or take, again, there's things going back and forth. So that's kind of what you have to expect. And then once you hit the end of that initial contract, now you can, we on the enlisted side call it re-enlist, but you can extend your contract. So then I know we talked about the bonuses of like $250,000. Can you qualify for those bonuses toward the end of that 5 years, or is it like a one and done and you're just gonna, that's it?
I have a whole nother slide with like a ton of pay data, like way more probably than you even want.
Okay, we'll wait.
It's never full of funds, but yeah, we can get into that later.
Okay, cool. Those are just some of the common questions that I've had when I talk to CRNA. So I figured I kind of scrolled through your common questions, and I just want to throw those out there so that way, in case anybody's watching or if they watch it later on YouTube, they know.
Sure.
All right, back to you, sir.
But yeah, we can kind of go down these. So the application deadline is pretty much the same every year. This year, August 1st. Again, next year probably is going to be August 1st as well. And you do have to have your shadow done, your whole Army application, your Baylor application, all of it. And then where are these phase 2 interviews conducted at? I have the locations listed here. They're the exact same place that you would do phase 2 of the CRNA program, which is kind of nice because say you finish phase 1, you get into the program, you finish phase 1 and everything, and you want to request a specific phase 2 location, you've already been to one. You know, if you're a civilian, you've never been to these hospitals before. This is a great opportunity to go and see one and kind of see what it's like to be in a military hospital. You know, how is that different? How is it not different? And just kind of get that vibe. And like I said earlier, interviews are virtual this year because of COVID-19. Just something we have to deal with. It is what it is. So why is the shadow and interview 3 days? A lot of people ask this because it is a significant time investment for the individual. But like I said before, we need to be 100% certain that this is what you want to do. Some people have said, this is not for me. This is way too much autonomy, or this is scary. You know, we just want to be sure. And we want to give you a good opportunity to shadow an SRNA for a couple of days and ask a lot of questions, make sure this is a good fit, and make sure everybody's, you know, going to be happy in the end as well. And then also you can ask them what they like about it, what they don't like about it. You don't have to hear from us as recruiters. If you think we're biased, that's fine. Go there, do the interview, and they will probably tell you everything and some about what's good and what's bad. So that's actually an awesome opportunity to do that.
And I'm glad you actually kind of hit on this. I know recruiters get a bad rap, and I mean, I'm not even going to go and defend because I'm going to be honest, my recruiter did lie to me. But when you ask some of the medical professionals, I'd be more than happy to put you in contact with somebody that has no relationship to recruiting command whatsoever. And like, hey, I want to be this. It's like, here, let me put you in contact with this person that I've worked with in the past. And they can tell you what it's like being a PA, what it's like being a doctor, what it's like being a nurse. And that way you hear it straight from them, because again, it is a lifestyle. It is not just it's not just a job. It's not a career. It is a true lifestyle. And we want to make sure that you're on board with the Army lifestyle, because if you're only in it to come in and get the money, you're probably going to be pretty miserable. If you're not on board with the lifestyle, but they're like, hey, but they're going to pay me a lot. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be performing at the level you should. And it shows, because I've worked with those people before. And that's why we say it's like, we want to bring in the people who absolutely want to do this and are the best fit for the job.
You know, the two guys that I am having apply through me this year, both of them already had an inkling in their heart that the military was something that they were interested in and something they wanted to do. And when they found this program, it was kind of just matching two perfect things together of goals for them. You know, this goal of service, and then also this goal of becoming a CRNA. And, you know, the stars kind of just aligned in that way. So this is actually a really good opportunity for people who think that military service is something that they want to do, but just didn't know that there was a great avenue to do both things in their life.
All right, I'll hit on some of the other common questions.
And like I said, there's no exemption. You do have to do the shadow and interview. As far as emergency room experience, that can count as critical care, but it does not always count as critical care. It depends on, you know, what types of patients you're seeing. Are you a level 1 trauma facility, or are you, you know, a level 4 in the middle of nowhere that doesn't see anything and you ship everything out? So not all ERs are graded the same, okay? So you do need to be at a large, robust, ideally a trauma ER, or somewhere you're holding patients sometimes with ventilators and drips that you have to titrate, blood gases, all those good things. So again, that just depends. If you have questions, or you're like not sure if you qualify or GPA or whatever, reach out to Miss Johns here, or go to their website and reach out that way. They will happily look at your transcripts. They will happily talk to you about the program. For this specific program, I would not reach out to a recruiter first, actually. I would reach out to the program first, then I would reach out to a recruiter. So let them sell you on the program and tell you about it and see if you qualify, and then come to us and we will help walk you through the Army process and what it takes to apply. Because you have to take both and kind of look at both independently, but you definitely want to make sure the program's a good fit for you. And that's something you want to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so this link right here that you have, again, take a look at the link tree. I've gone ahead and put all that in there as well. Like I said before, everything that we talk about today, all the links, if I'm going to try and put them in the link tree, if I forget one, send me a message, and that way I can go back and re-add it.
And then as far as timing is concerned, because the Army application has such a variable length of time for people, depending on what's going on in your life and education and medical conditions, whatever, I would start looking to apply for this program in April to be done in August to start the next year. So that's an ideal world. Like that's just my opinion. Okay. This is my opinion, but we can't always control when you learn about the program. Okay. So if it's today and you want to apply for 2021 to start in 2021, August 1st is coming up in like 30 days. It is possible. It is possible. However,
really cutting it close.
However, you're gonna have to go take the GRE today. That's usually the big inhibitor, you know, coming later in the game, unless you already have a GRE and you meet the qualifications. That's like the big issue. Otherwise, you can knock it out in a heartbeat. as long as there's no big medical issues barring you. But this almost is a presentation at this point for USACPAN for next year to start in 2022 and apply in 2021. If you see this today and you have the GRE, maybe for this year, but
you better be.
You will be turning and burning and doing all kinds of stuff.
I would say that's one of those things you call me direct or you call Captain Dulworth direct, and we will get you rolling and passed off to your local guy to go ahead and handle getting you scheduled for MEPS. Because, I mean, you better clear your schedule because we will move as fast as you do.
You'll be the 1 in a million kind of person if you can make it happen. But, hey, if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, our recruiters are very committed, so.
So I know we kind of touched on the pay and benefits. This is just for the CRNA side.
This is a lot to soak in. Yeah, anyway. We'll kind of go line by line here because this can be very confusing to a lot of people. And I also put in information here that is not necessarily going to be during your payback time. When I say payback, but you're just, I don't want to call it a payback. You're just, most places you work under a contract. And with the Army, you're still falling under a contract to work for an employer, but you're also getting school paid for. So you just, some people have a false envisioning of things, but I think that's the best way to look at it. But at any rate, most people when they come in are a first lieutenant. So that's the 1LT/02 there. And if you have no military experience, if you're in the reserves, this might be a little different, but we start with the pay scale with less than 2 years of experience. And then you have the base pay here, which is about $45,500. And then, of course, everyone's going to be in San Antonio for phase 1. So there's the rate for that. And I can't remember if I made that with dependents or without. I'm not sure, but they're reasonably close to each other at any rate. The BAS, you'll get that. Don't worry about what it is. That's obligated to you.
If you wonder what it is, it's we're paying you to eat. It's the basic allowance for subsistence is really what it is.
So yeah, if you look at the total here on the right, the first 3 columns are what you'll make during school. So only during school. And if you come in as a direct CRNA, that's a whole another different pay. You make more money than that, obviously. But on the right side here, kind of the things I couldn't quantify and I didn't want to try to quantify, was healthcare. Healthcare is free. Tuition is fully paid. Tuition, how much it is, varies based on the school you're applying to. I don't know if I could ever come up with the correct number for that, to be honest with you. But that's a huge dollar amount you have to factor in. Your books, they'll just give them to you. Clinical fees, there are none. You actually earn retirement while you're in school, which is pretty mind-boggling and crazy. And then you also earn your salary, of course, while you're in school.
So
and we didn't talk about this earlier, too, with the retirement, but this is unlike the old system in that if you contribute to your retirement, even if you leave after this commitment, you are vested and you can take those funds with you.
Yes.
So you can roll that over into a different, 401k style plan. So you're not missing out on that part of your life and earnings.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I did want to hit on was earning retirement while in school. So we went through, kind of did the timeline, and you're looking at about 8 years. So you're 3 years of training, you're 5 years. And now you have to kind of make a decision. Like, do you want to get out after 8 or do the extra 12 and be fully vested in as soon as you hit the 20 mark, getting out, collecting that retirement, and you're still a CRNA. And you can take all of that experience and go straight into a civilian sector, especially as a military CRNA, being an independent practitioner with your previous experience on like FRSTs and all of your other command experience and everything else. You're so far ahead of your peers that have been working in an OR for the past 20 years. And that's all they've done. So there's other things that fall into play there that are just kind of, you don't really think about until it comes time to actually take your skills that you've acquired and jump over to the civilian side.
And like we mentioned in some of our other videos, the housing allowance is tax-free, so that's a good thing. In some states, you don't pay taxes on your base pay. It depends on what state you claim. Michigan is one of those states. And then I went super in depth on this thing, like way beyond. I kind of did this for me as well, actually, to be honest. But anything that's not highlighted in yellow is what your pay is going to look like while you're serving those 5 years after school. So once you hit captain there, that's post school. Okay. There's the total amounts on the right. I'm not going to go through the columns here, but there's incentive pay and board certification pay, blah, 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 blah. So it is below what you would make as a starting CRNA on the civilian side. It depends on what state, but usually you're looking at maybe 155, 160-ish, maybe. Again, depends on the state as a new grad. But obviously, it's hard to quantify like the healthcare and how much tuition costs up front, stress, or if you had student loans on the civilian side, paying interest on that, retirement. I mean, it would be so difficult to quantify those things. But at any rate, once you're done with that period, you're kind of looking at these yellow blocks here. I didn't do every single year after that. I only did certain marks of time that I just picked out randomly through there just to see what it looked like in the future. And say you 14 years in down the road, and you can see on the second to last on the right side, there's this retention bonus, which is, we talked about a session bonus before, that $250,000 divided by 4 if you come direct. This is what we do for people to maintain them in our employment and also give them a more competitive pay. And how much money you earn depends on how many years you sign up for. So say you take a 4-year contract, they're going to pay you an extra $35,000 a year. If you take a 6-year contract, they're going to pay you $50,000 a year. So that's why I have 2 figures on the right side under the total column, because what your total pay is going to vary person by person depending on how many years you're agreeing to serve with the Army. Anything to add?
No, that looks good. So that's kind of again, this is all active duty.
Yes.
If you have questions about this, that's his phone number. There, call him.
That's me in the beautiful, brand new, redone Hawaii ICU. And I went to see my friend after my deployment. But obviously I couldn't show you any patient rooms because there's people in there in HIPAA. But
oh yeah,
it's really nice now.
All right, so what we're now going to jump to is STRAP. So this is the Specialized Training and Residency Assistance Program, I believe. Did I get that right? We pay you to go to schools. So
I think you got it more right than how I typed it on there. So
yeah, because I know the R is for residency. So this program covers a lot of different fields. So this program covers nursing. This program covers doctors. This program covers dentists. This program covers PAs, which a lot of people don't know. We will pay you to go to those education programs, but this is completely Army Reserve. So you have to find a program. You have to get accepted to the program all on your own. We're not going to handle that. Once you're accepted, then you come talk to us. Sir, take it away.
Just summarize the whole thing, man. No, so yeah, like you said, I'm only going to speak to the CRNA piece. I'm not going to talk about anything else because the numbers and things change for doctors or somebody else. Okay, so
we're going to cover that in a later date too.
Yes, absolutely. So you just have to be accepted. Once you have an unconditional acceptance to a doctoral program that is credentialed by the COA, then you're good. You're golden. You can apply. You don't even have to have started yet. You can apply before school starts, or you can apply a year after school starts. Whatever. Pretty much anywhere in the spectrum you can apply for this. There are reasons why you would apply sometimes and not. We'll get into that here in a minute, but just know that there's an opportunity at any point. Even if you're just finishing CRNA school, that's fine. There's a path for that as well. So kind of how the commitment works for this is every 6 months that you take of the STREP program, you'll serve a year in the Army Reserve. So my voice cracks and I sound beautiful. So once you're done with CRNA school, that's when you start serving the Army Reserve. You have absolutely nothing to do except get one piece of paper signed each month from your school just to get paid stuff. Essentially, that they're just attesting that you went to school and you did clinicals and all that stuff. You have no obligation in school to do anything other than that. You're not going to show up to do any unit training. You're not going to get deployed, nothing. Our commitment to you is that we are going to help pay you because we want you to be a CRNA. That is the end goal. We need you as a CRNA, not to pull you out early to do something somebody else can do that's not as, doesn't have the education background that you have. So some people don't understand that. I just wanted to clarify that. So some people, part of it is you break it up the way you want to serve in the end, right? Say you want to serve 4 years in the Army Reserve and not 6. So you just do 2 years of STREP. Absolutely fine, no problem. But you do need to apply before you've started the second year because there's also time lag for paperwork and all this stuff, okay? So just something to think about. But if you think about doing that, just reach out earlier before you start and then let us know. We'll kind of coach you through it and the timeline. And we can help break it up in pieces so you don't get overwhelmed while you're also doing CRNA school because that's a lot of things on your plate all at once. And you got to keep the family unit happy.
And so I know we talked about what this is, and I think, yep, we'll go into it. So, all right, requirements.
So these are mostly Army requirements. So you do have to meet a certain height weight standard that is easily found on the internet. You can just search Army height weight standard and you'll see what that is. You can be no older than 48. Possibly, maybe could get a waiver, maybe. Can't promise that, but you could apply for one absolutely, especially if you're barely over 48. Go ahead and apply for it and see what happens. And if you're a fully certified CRNA, absolutely apply for a waiver. You do have to meet medical standards. We've talked about that before. You have to get a military physical. We have to make sure that everything's good, any surgeries you've had, no complications, see what medications you're currently on, if there's no issues there. And again, be accepted to an accredited CRNA program. And then you also have to pass the ACFT, which is the new physical fitness test. You have to pass that once a year. Usually you'll take it twice a year, but you only have to pass it once a year anyway.
Yeah. If you Google it, you'll see there's tons of information on it, especially because we're now shifting over to it from the old push-up, sit-ups, run. There's very, very specific movements that we do for the ACFT. I'm not going to go into that right now, so you can take a look at that later.
These pictures are actually Army Reserve CRNA, a good friend of ours, Cincinnati OIC, and he's just doing some training stuff. And then you can see at the bottom there, they're actually putting him into hypoxia while he's treating a patient, which is kind of neat. But that end here.
Yeah, the chambers are fun.
You can talk to him too. If you reach out to the Cincinnati station, they'll hook you up with them and he'll be happy to talk to you. But this is the pay breakdown.
All right, hey, one second really quick, sir. Hey, I did notice there was a jump in viewers. I don't know where you guys came from, but just to give you a heads up, right now we're going over the STRAP program. So this is for people who are interested in the Army Reserve looking at going into a CRNA program. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave us a comment and we'll try and get them answered while we're on air. All right, sorry.
If you have any nursing question whatsoever, just throw it in there. We've got plenty of time. So
yeah.
Anyway, how this works, I'll just go through year one because they're all repetitive of each other. So you have the stipend. So you get the stipend of $2,391 a month, and then there's a yearly total there as well. So you get that every month paid out to you. And then there's drill pay. Now, anybody who's been in the military before knows that drill pay is when you usually go to a unit and you do something. That's not the case for this. Your drill pay is paid out to you just by the school saying that you went to clinicals in class, okay? So you don't have to go do anything, just stay in school and be a good student, right? This is the confusing part, is the student loan repayment. So I said earlier you could take this program in 6-month increments. You probably want to do year-long increments, okay? Because you have to serve a whole year-long commitment to get the loan repayment to get the extra $20,000 a year. If you want to do a 6-month, by all means, have at it. We will support you 100%. But just advocating for you to get the most return on your investment, you probably want to do whole years, ideally 2, to get paid for a year back. So you can get $40,000 of loan repayment over that whole life cycle. And if you were to do the whole thing for all 3 years of a doctoral program, that's how much money they're going to pay you just from stipend, loan repayment, and drill pay. And then all you got to do is serve in the Army Reserve when you're done. This is not an active duty commitment. This is only a reserve, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year kind of thing.
Yeah. And so a lot of people ask, especially with this, about deployments. There's something special about CRNAs in the nursing fields when it comes to deployment timeframe. As it sits right now, CRNAs can be in what we call the APMC. So the Army Professional Management Command. They manage your career. So instead of reporting to a unit, so for example, up in Michigan, there's not many medical units up there. I don't believe there's any. I think there's one. Okay. But what they can do is they can assign you to a unit in New Mexico, but you'll have a manager that you're going to link up with directly, and that's going to be your liaison to do anything medical, because they realize that you're such a specialty, or that you have this specialty training. They're not going to have you travel every month to go down there. So what they'll do is they'll actually work with you on how to get your drill pay for that time frame. And this is after school. Whether it's coming helping the recruiting side out and doing videos like this, or going out into your CRNA programs and stuff like that, coming and just talking from firsthand experience about what it's like. We can assist you getting through that process. The other thing is they have what are called 90-day boggers. So when it comes to deployments, CRNAs are 90-day boots on ground. So when you talk about FRSTs and when you talk about these, the doctors and stuff going out, you're going to align with the doctors for deployments. Whereas almost everybody else, if a unit's going for 9 months, you're going for 9 months. A unit's going for a year, you're going for a year. CRNAs are a special category. So that's another thing to consider, because they realize if you pull a CRNA out of a community, you may be one of 3 at that regional hospital out in the middle of nowhere, and now you're putting that regional hospital at a deficit. So the Army does recognize these things, and that's why we do work with you on this.
We also want to keep you. We don't want to lose you.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't. Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, CRNAs are high demand. You guys are very important in what you do, and you're very specialized, and we want to keep you happy. And a 90-day boots on ground deployment is a great way to do that. I don't know where else I'm going with that, but I just throw that in there because it's partially true. And then we talked about deployments earlier. It's not necessarily going to Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever. You could be backfilling somebody at an Army hospital in Hawaii or Texas or North Carolina. That happens quite a bit. I know Major Sarber, who's one of our Michigan CRNAs, he's in North Carolina right now, doing a 90-day mobilization there. And what a lot of people do is there's actually a list, and you can see who deployed and when and whatever. And when you see your name starting to get towards the top, like, hey, maybe I need to go do something, you can see what's available and say, hey, I want to do that. So you're proactively essentially deciding where you want to go. Okay. Yeah. So if you don't want the Army to tell you what to do, then you're proactive and you advocate for yourself. And if you're in the state, or sorry, in the country, then your family can come with you. That's fine. I mean, no problem. They can come visit you, whatever. Just an additional consideration,
or they can't, and that's depending on how you want to manage that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
90-day vacation, bye. So, I mean, that's completely up to you. But like we talked about before, is even when I was in Germany, we had our reserve doc came out and did backfill, and she used that as a way to get her kids to Germany and be like, they came into her apartment and then they're like, hi mom, bye mom, and they traveled for about 2 months straight. So So we talked about the deployments already, or mobilizations. It's the same thing. It's not always to a war zone, backfill, things like that. DCC and Bullock. So we kind of touched on this a little bit in the previous hour, but DCC and Bullock. DCC needs to be completed within the first year after commissioning. Bullock needs to be completed within the 3 years. So that's kind of your time frame. And we don't set when you come on and you talk to us, we don't set those dates in stone. That's going to be between you and your unit when you finish. Now, when you're in strap, you're untouchable. You're not going to be doing these schools until after you've completed your entire program. Because again, it's a very intensive program. We realize that you're already leaving your civilian employment. You have to quit your job to go to these programs. So we're betting on you completing it. So we don't want anything distracting you.
And there was a question from Y Longley there about that. And no, you do not have to complete DCC or Bullock before CRNA school. That would be afterwards. Yep.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for the question. If anybody else has any questions, please reach out. Typically with DCC and Bullock, it also depends on the program you're doing. So if you're going through USAGPAN, so the active duty side, yes, you will do it. DCC before you start, and then Bullock will be coordinated at some point thereafter. And on the reserve side, it'll be managed for you to make sure that it's not interfering with school. So I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, shoot us another reply below.
We already talked about travel a bunch of times, change of pace, but if there's a lot of new people, I mean, we'll just harp on it again. It's in my personal opinion, yeah. In my personal opinion, the change of pace honestly is worth it in itself. Forget the money aside and all the other stuff. Like doing the same thing every single day, I can't do it. I can't do it personally. You get burnout, you get a little bit of fatigue, especially as a provider. And this is a great opportunity just to mix it up and do something different. And a lot of people probably think I'm crazy, but honestly, going to Afghanistan was like one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I had a very good time. I got to treat people that just got hurt and have a huge impact on their lives. And I met some awesome people. It was a good time. I mean, I'm not encouraging war or anything, whatever. The country does what it does, but we need people to be healthcare providers everywhere around the world to take care of people when they get hurt. And it's really a good time. It's a great opportunity. So,
and speaking on
questions about deployments too, I mean, throw them in there by all means, whatever you got.
And speaking on the medical piece, I mean, because I was on the front line actually. Oh, hold on one.
He'll be back. I'll kind of hit on my last bullet there while he's away there. Even if you're in a state that is you're not an independent practitioner, when you come to the Army and the Army Reserve, you're still going to be an independent practitioner. If we deploy you with the forward resuscitative surgical team, you're probably going to be either one of two CRNAs on that team or the only CRNA on that team with no anesthesiologist. So that's, they're another benefit and perk kind of being in the reserves.
Yeah. But what I did want to say is it is very rewarding on the medical side. I mean, I've taken people and passed them off to the FRSTs and everything like that. And it's seeing somebody on the worst day of their life and then catching up with them later. And they're saying it's like they wouldn't have done their job without us being there. And that's why it is very important to me. I really do try and look for the absolute best people when I go talk to them. Sir, I'm sure you can attest to that as well. But anybody on the medical side, it's a very different mentality that a lot of us have. And I mean, you do it on the civilian sector. Most nurses I know, if they see a car accident, they're going to stop. They're going to jump out. They're going to help. Same thing on the enlisted side. We do the same thing. But what I do want to say is, sorry, I got a little off track on that one. The whole independent practitioner, every level we do try and empower you to do the most that you can possibly do. We are running a little bit out of time for you, but I don't see Captain Perkins on here yet. So if you're here, go ahead and jump on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave this up for a little bit. So if you have any questions, whether it's CRNA, whether it's nursing school, or even it's like, hey, I'm an LPN right now and I want to be this. Any one of us can actually lay out, it's like, all right, this is what you need to do. And honestly, if you can't do it in the Army, we're not going to push you that way. Because I want you, one, is to be happy in what you're doing. Because I've had a lot of people that it's like, hey, I just got into my RN program. I'm finishing up my BSN. Like, what's the easiest way to come into the Army? It's like, honestly, you should be talking to ROTC because there's nothing we can do right now. Once you get done and you start getting some experience under your belt, then it's like, all right, then come back, then come talk to us. But if you want to set yourself up for success, and if you know like your end state is CRNA, or then when you're getting out of your BSN program, find those ICU jobs, find those crit care jobs. So you want to be able to set yourself up for success in the long run. And that's kind of our job, is to break it down, to explain it, so that way, whether you talk to us or you talk to somebody else in the future, we want you to be happy and we want you to be successful.
And just to say, because there's probably new people in the chat and didn't miss the whole first, we probably went for an hour and a half on the first video, but we went a little overboard. If you come in the Army as an active duty, so full-time nurse, as an ICU nurse, that does not inhibit you from attending CRNA school. Just like for me, I'm an active duty Army ICU nurse, and I 100% want to go to CRNA school. I'm almost done with that application. The Army will pay for you to go full-time to CRNA school. They'll pay for school, and you'll keep making your salary and retirement and everything. So coming on board as an active duty nurse does not inhibit you at all from applying for things later on. You don't have to, it's not like the civilian side where I'm employed and then I have to leave my employment to go to school full time and lose a ton of money and then come back to employment. We work out and kind of smooth that whole spectrum across so that you're still getting paid the whole time. And especially if you have family members, this is also STRAP is actually a really great program if you need health care just while you're in school. We've had a lot of, on the physician side, reach out to us that were interested because they were paying an arm and a leg for health insurance when they could just be getting paid through the STRAP program to do the Army Reserves after residency. And they only had to pay $230 for their whole family. They were already making more than that just from the STRAP program. So it's being covered. And that was a huge, huge thing for a lot of people, was the healthcare. And if you're single, it's like $45. It's nothing. If it was between the schools and our health insurance, I would take ours, but that's just me personally.
All right, sorry, I was getting, so our next guest, Captain Perkins, he's having a little bit of an issue logging in, so I just got the link sent out to him. All right, so I know you did kind of touch on it. As far as for a family, that's one thing a lot of people do bring up is what is it like having a family when you're in the Army, whether active or reserve? Now, I can speak on my part. I've never been part of the reserve, so that's oh, hold on, we just got a question. I'll get to you in just 1 second, but as far as active duty, being married, it's fairly easy because you get family taken care of, you have all the healthcare benefits, and when you live on post, so I know, sir, you've never lived on a base, there's pools, there's gyms, there's playgrounds. I lived right across from an extremely nice playground and splash pad in Hawaii. So while my wife had to stop her job as a nurse and take care of our son, she was able to do so because we were fairly comfortable in what I was making, plus having the housing and everything provided. But there's also a lot of things on base that can support having a family, childcare, schools, everything like that. What experience have you had, and is there anything that stands out to you that would be different working civilian side versus working military side?
I'm gonna backtrack. I was just gonna say it's like living in a gated community, except the gate guards have like long rifles and stuff, and keep the riffraff. As far as the family piece, like my daughter's only a year and a half old, not even yet, so I'm not gonna talk too much about that. Especially being recruiting, I don't live on base right now, or even close to one. So I can't really attest to kind of how that works, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we have grocery stores, we have our own housing, we have our own maintenance people, we have all that stuff already. So it's pretty different. There is a question down here. I do want to.
Just got it. So,
okay.
Wailong Lee, missed the first part of the presentation. Do you know what you SAGPAN look at for the most when selecting candidates? The GPA, work experience. So let's answer that part first. And when we discussed it, it's kind of, there's 4 things they really look at. Sir, did you want to go ahead and take that part? Please.
Yeah, that'd be great. They look at everything equally, but it depends on the individual how they weigh it. Like we talked about, if you have a low GPA, like the gentleman we were talking about before who had a 3.1, he had a CCRN, so that made a big difference for him. And, he had the necessary work experience and he did well on the GRE. So, if you have a good GPA, you have a good GRE, or you even meet the GRE itself, you have your CCRN, you're set up for success already, right? Some people get barred because they don't meet the physical requirements. So that's another consideration on the Army side, not even on the Baylor USAGPAN side, that can bar people, which is why, or some CRNA programs you may have like hundreds and hundreds of people apply. For us, sometimes we can't because somebody couldn't make the GRE score or they couldn't meet the physical requirements on the Army side. So they look at all of them and how they weigh them, I can't necessarily say, but obviously like anything, if you're weaker in one spot, you need to be stronger somewhere else, and take those things into consideration. And if you're going to be very competitive, then you need to do all 3.
And then as far as the active duty CRNA, what types of units would they be expected to be working at in garrison?
Yeah, so you're going to work in the hospital. I mean, pure and simple. You need to get your reps in. Just like our ICU nurses that do flight nursing, they need to spend time working in the ICUs to get their reps in and keep their skills up and stay fresh. Once you're a CRNA, you're always going to see patients. I believe usually they do a rotation as well. Like you'll do OB sometimes, and then sometimes you'll be in the OR, kind of rotating on those kinds of things through the different sections of the hospital. But you can also be assigned to, say, a field hospital or for a resuscitative surgical team. Typically, when you're in those, you're also doing cases at the local hospital as well. So, because you still need to keep your skills fresh and current and make sure that you're at the top of your game, if you get tagged for a deployment or something like that. So,
cool. Hey, I'm sorry, sir, but we're out of time for you. So we are gonna, for all those watching, if you missed any part of this, we're going to be able to revisit this later. And also we're going to have you on, I believe, tomorrow and also for Thursday. Let me double check the schedule.
Just Thursday. I'll be back Thursday.
Just Thursday. All right. So he will be back at, we're probably going to say right about 10:30 on Thursday. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them. And what we'll do is we'll save them. If it's something that I can't answer, if it's one that's directly for him, we'll go ahead and save it. And we'll also try and, after this is all done, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of chop these up and repost them up onto Facebook and YouTube. So that way, if you want to come back and watch the USAGPAN briefing again, you can at any time. And we'll answer those questions and throw them in at the end. Other than that, any parting words, sir?
I got nothing.
All right, cool.
I hope you guys have questions because I love answering questions and helping people. So,
all right, hey, thank you very much. So next up, we got Captain Perkins. All right, I'm booting you off. Sorry. Sir, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Hey, I definitely enjoyed that with you and Captain Dolworth. There was a lot of great info.
So a little bit of a background. So Captain Dolworth was up in Michigan, and now we're down into Cincinnati. So Captain Perkins is the OIC of our clinic, or not clinic, our recruiting station down there. So if you're from the Cincinnati area, if you have any questions, reach out to him. But sir, before we get going, we're going to take a quick, about 3-minute break. Are you good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Hey, we're going to take a quick 3-minute break before we jump into trauma surgery. So that way, at least we have a good time frame. Yeah. So we're going to be going into trauma surgeons in the Army and Army Reserve. So we got a few things I need to get set up.
Okay, great.
All right. I also need to go to the bathroom, so that's the other reason. All right, guys, be right back.